It was 2:17 p.m. when my world came crashing down. "Mrs. Rachel Dawson, there's been an accident. Your husband David didn't make it. Your daughter Mia is in critical condition." My heart stopped. I called my parents through the fog of my tears. "David's gone. Mia might not survive." Their response? "We're at Jacob's birthday party right now. Can this wait? Can this wait?" My parents' cold response echoed in my mind as they chose Jacob's birthday party over my world falling apart. 30 days later, they came for half of the settlement money. I showed them what real loss looks like. Where are you watching from? Drop a comment below and hit subscribe to follow my journey through grief, betrayal, and healing. Before that horrific Tuesday afternoon changed everything, David and I had built what I thought was a perfect life. We met during our junior year at Northwestern University. I was studying finance, staying up late in the library, when this tall, smiling architecture student asked if he could share my table. David Dawson had the kindest brown eyes I'd ever seen, and a laugh that made everyone around him smile. After graduation, he pursued civil engineering while I became a financial analyst at a respected firm in Chicago. Our wedding came 3 years later, a beautiful October ceremony with golden leaves swirling around us as we said our vows. We bought our first home a year after that, a charming 3-bedroom colonial with a backyard perfect for the family we dreamed of building. But life had other plans. After years of fertility treatments, 3 miscarriages, and countless tears, we were about to give up when our miracle happened. Mia Elizabeth Bennett arrived after a difficult pregnancy, weighing 6 pounds 2 ounces, with her father's brown eyes and my stubborn chin. From the moment we brought her home, Mia became our universe. David would spend hours building elaborate blanket forts in the living room, complete with structural supports that he insisted were necessary for proper fort integrity. Every Sunday morning, the 3 of us had pancake competitions, creating increasingly ridiculous shapes and voting on whose creation was the most imaginative. Mia's unicorn-shaped stack usually won, though David's attempt at the Sears Tower deserved honorable mention for ambition if not execution. I treasured our evening routine the most. After dinner, we'd gather at the kitchen table for homework, art projects, or board games. David taught Mia chess when she was just 6, and she stunned us both by beating him, legitimately, by age 8. "She gets her strategic mind from you, Liv," he'd say with pride, though we both knew her competitive streak was all my doing. Throughout these happy years, my relationship with my parents remained complicated. Susan and Robert Ward had always made their preference for my younger brother Jacob obvious. When I graduated with honors from Northwestern, they attended, but left early to help Jacob move into his sophomore dorm. When I received a major promotion 3 years ago, they canceled our celebration dinner because Jacob had tickets to a basketball game and needed a ride. I tried not to let it hurt. David would squeeze my hand under the table during family gatherings when my mother interrupted my stories to ask Jacob about his latest girlfriend, or when my father checked his watch while I explained my work. "We're your real family," David would whisper, nodding toward Mia, who was usually drawing nearby. I believed him. But despite all that we had, despite the beautiful life we created together, it felt like I was fighting for my place in my own family. And little did I know, everything would change on that one dreadful day. The day that would take David from us and leave me with a gaping hole in my heart. The day when even the family I loved would turn their backs on me. The morning of the accident started like any other Tuesday. David made coffee while I packed Mia's lunch. She was excited about her swimming competition that afternoon. "Mom, watch for me to do the backstroke flip turn," she said. "I wish I could be there, sweetie, but I have a meeting." I zipped her lunch into her dolphin-shaped lunch bag. "Dad will record it for me, right?" David smiled, confirming, "I'll make sure to get the best shot." Mia rolled her eyes but smiled. "What if I don't win? Then I'll delete the video and we'll say you were robbed." He winked, making us laugh. Those were our last normal moments. The last time I heard David's laugh or saw Mia's eye roll. I kissed them both goodbye at 7:45 a.m. David would drop Mia at school before heading to his construction site. I went to the office, thinking about my 2:00 p.m. presentation. Then the phone rang. "This is Officer Martinez with the Chicago PD. There's been an accident involving your husband and daughter." My heart sank. David died at the scene. Mia is in critical condition. "You need to come to the hospital immediately." I couldn't hold myself together. My world shattered. At the hospital, Dr. Lawrence explained Mia's condition, using terms I could hardly understand. She had severe brain injuries, a punctured lung, and broken ribs. I couldn't fathom it. Mia, my vibrant, precious girl, was fighting for her life. The doctor's words were a blur. I just kept thinking about David. He was supposed to take her to the swim meet. She was so excited. Now she might never wake up. My heart ached. And all I could think was that this was the worst day of my life. I was led to David's body. He looked peaceful, but his absence felt overwhelming. I begged him to come back. My hands were shaking as I clutched his cold hand. After a while I had to leave. Mia was still in surgery and I needed to call my parents. "Mom, David's dead. Mia's in surgery," I cried. Her response? "We're at Jacob's birthday party. Can this wait until later?" I froze. My parents chose his birthday over the most devastating moment of my life. I couldn't believe it. My daughter's life was on the line and they couldn't even show up. I sat in the silence of the hospital room, waiting for Mia's surgery to end. Megan, my friend, arrived, but my parents didn't. They weren't coming. They didn't care. As days passed, Mia's condition was critical but stable. Dr. Lawrence kept saying the next few days were crucial. My heart couldn't rest. Meanwhile, my parents called once to offer vague apologies and explained they couldn't come because of Jacob's needs. The betrayal grew every day. The worst part wasn't just the hospital. It was planning David's funeral while my daughter fought for her life. I picked a casket, wrote an obituary, and handled everything alone. My parents were nowhere to be found. They sent flowers, but made it clear they couldn't prioritize us. My mother's voice on the phone the day before the funeral was cold. "We might be able to make it, but Jacob has a meeting. Is 2:00 p.m. the only time?" They couldn't even be bothered to care. My heart broke all over again. Jacob's needs always came before mine. This was my reality, handling the worst grief of my life alone, betrayed by the very people who should have been there. But what hurt the most? That they never understood. The time had come. The emotional roller coaster of loss, fear, and betrayal had torn Rachel's life apart, but nothing could prepare her for the conversation that was about to unfold. The truth had to be spoken. It had been a few weeks since the funeral. Rachel was still at the hospital, spending every waking moment beside her daughter Mia. Her life had become a blur of medical reports, beeping machines, and the hollow emptiness left by David's absence. But amidst the emotional storm, a new tension was brewing, a confrontation she could no longer avoid. The phone call came just after the third week. Her parents wanted to discuss the settlement, the very same settlement that had been offered to her after David's death and Mia's life-threatening injuries. For the first time, her parents were suddenly interested in her, in them. They had been absent, emotionally distant, and completely indifferent to the devastation that had turned Rachel's world upside down. Now they wanted a slice of the compensation meant solely for Mia's recovery. Rachel felt the bitter sting of betrayal once again. She had always felt the weight of her parents' favoritism toward her younger brother, Jacob, but this was different. This was greed. It wasn't just about the settlement. It was about their disregard for the very real pain she was experiencing. The morning they arrived, Rachel steeled herself. The meeting was set for 7:00 p.m. They arrived exactly on time, and the air was thick with discomfort. Jacob trailed behind them, awkwardly avoiding her gaze. Rachel led them to the living room, where her father's eyes immediately began scanning the room as if calculating the value of the space. Her mother, with her perfectly applied makeup and pristine pantsuit, spoke in that voice Rachel knew too well, one that masked manipulation under the guise of concern. Jacob, ever the compliant child, stayed silent, fidgeting with his phone. As they sat down, Rachel's mother wasted no time. "We've been thinking about the settlement situation," she began, the words dripping with a practiced calmness. "It's a large sum, Rachel, and it should benefit the family, don't you think?" The audacity of it hit Rachel like a slap. The family? This money was for Mia, for her recovery, her future. Her daughter's life hung in the balance, but no, they were talking about it like a jackpot. Rachel fought to control the anger bubbling inside her. "I don't understand," Rachel said, her voice calm but edged with steel. "The settlement is for Mia's care, not for anyone else's benefit. The money is meant for her future, her therapy, her education. You know that, don't you?" Her mother waved her hand dismissively. "Of course, Rachel, but you've got to see it from our side. This money could support all of us. After all, we've been through a lot too. Jacob's got his business idea." "I'm sorry," Rachel interrupted, her voice firm. "What does Jacob's business have to do with this? You want me to divide my daughter's future with your business ideas? This is Mia's money, not a family pool of funds." Her father, looking uncomfortable, added, "Rachel, we're family. Family supports family. Surely you can understand that." At that moment, Rachel felt something shift deep within her. This was no longer about the money. This was about respect for her grief, her sacrifice, and for Mia's future. She had put her entire life on hold to care for her daughter. Yet, her parents were treating this like a negotiation. Rachel's heart ached, but she felt something else: strength. Without saying a word, she walked out of the room and returned moments later with 2 photographs in hand. She dropped them on the table in front of them, the weight of the images heavy in the silence that followed. The first photograph showed David in his casket. His once lively face now still, his eyes closed forever. It was an image that had been seared into Rachel's mind. She had taken it for Mia, so that one day, when her daughter could comprehend, she would have the memory of saying goodbye to her father. The second photo was of Mia in the ICU. The small girl she had once known, now hooked to ventilators, her head, shaved from surgery, bruised and swollen beyond recognition. Rachel's voice was steady, but the pain was raw as she spoke. "This," she said, pointing to the first photo, "is 50% of my loss. This is what you missed while you were celebrating Jacob's birthday. This is what it looks like when someone you love is ripped away from you." Her parents sat in stunned silence, their faces pale as they stared at the images. Jacob looked like he might throw up. The magnitude of what Rachel had just shown them was beyond anything they had expected. Rachel felt no sympathy. Her hands shook, but her voice remained unyielding. "And this," she continued, gesturing to the second photo, "this is your granddaughter, fighting for her life while you were too busy with your own lives to even come and offer support. This is your family, Mom. This is your real family. This is all I've had for weeks, fighting alone, while you ask me for a share of this." Her parents couldn't speak. The realization hit them like a wave, but Rachel was beyond caring. She had made her point. This was not about them. This was about Mia's future. "The settlement," Rachel said, her voice cold now, "will be placed entirely in a trust for Mia's care. Every penny will go to her rehabilitation, her therapy, her future, and none of it, not one penny, will go to any of you." Her mother's face twisted in indignation, and her father's eyes narrowed. Jacob, for the first time, looked genuinely regretful. "You'll regret this," her mother said, her voice icy. "When Mia needs us, when you're overwhelmed and alone, I would rather struggle alone than watch you treat my daughter's tragedy like a lottery win," Rachel interrupted, standing up. "Goodbye, Mom. Goodbye, Dad. Goodbye, Jacob." The door opened, and Rachel stood firm, holding it open. She had made her decision, and for the first time in a long time, she felt like herself again. As they walked out, Rachel felt a mixture of relief and grief. She had lost her husband. She had almost lost her daughter, and now she had lost her parents. But in that loss, she had gained something far more important: her strength, her voice, and the unwavering commitment to her daughter's future. This was Rachel's turning point. In that moment, Rachel knew that she would face whatever came next, with or without her family. She had a new family now, and that family was Mia. After the harrowing confrontation with my parents, a quiet shift began in my life. For 6 months, Mia and I navigated the aftermath of tragedy, both physical and emotional. Each day we worked together, Mia's healing became a symbol of my own survival. Though the scars ran deep, we learned how to find hope, even in the darkest hours. Mia's progress was nothing short of miraculous. There were setbacks, of course. Her physical therapist said the wheelchair would likely be a temporary measure, and though her recovery was slow, it was there. Her speech, though halting at times, began to return. Her laughter slowly crept back into our lives, a reminder of who she truly was beneath the trauma. The doctors said it would take time, but they were optimistic, and so was I. Her cognitive recovery was a challenge. Her math skills were rusty and short-term memory loss was apparent, but her resilience shone through. The most profound moments, though, were the quiet ones. I watched her closely, her eyes tracing every bird that passed by. One morning she pointed out a cardinal. "Look at that red one. Dad would have loved to see it," she said. The mention of David was not sad or mournful. It was just part of our daily life, a part of who she was becoming. I nodded, fighting back tears. "He would have," I agreed, sitting beside her, taking in the beauty of that moment. I asked her, "Remember how he used to make up silly names for the birds?" She looked at me with a glint in her eyes. "Probably Sir Red Hood the Magnificent," she said, and we both burst out laughing. It was a small fleeting moment of lightness in a world that had been so heavy, but it felt real. It felt like us. Our new routine began to solidify. Therapy sessions 3 times a week, adjustments at home to make Mia's life easier, and small victories in each of her challenges. David's parents, though heartbroken, became a constant source of comfort. They visited regularly, and their stories about David helped us piece together the joyful, vibrant man he'd been. We held on to these memories, using them to guide us through the pain, and yet, Even with the settlement from the accident, which had been structured to provide for Mia's future medical and educational needs, there was always a shadow of grief that would never fully leave us. One day, Mia turned to me with a question that caught me off guard. "Why don't Grandpa and Grandpa Ward ever visit? Are they mad at us?" Her words were simple, but they cut deep. Despite everything that had happened, she still missed them. She missed her grandparents. I paused, carefully choosing my words. "They're not mad at us, sweetie," I said gently. "Sometimes grown-ups make choices about where to spend their time and energy. Grandma and Grandpa Ward have been focusing on Uncle Jacob lately." Mia's face showed no sign of understanding. "But they know I got hurt, right? And that Dad died. They know, don't they?" The innocence in her voice struck me. "I think sometimes people don't know how to handle very sad things," I explained. "And they might stay away because they don't know what to say." "That's silly," Mia declared with the wisdom of a child. "When you're sad, you need people more, not less." Her words were simple, yet profound. I squeezed her shoulder gently. "You're absolutely right. That's a very smart way to look at it." 3 weeks later, a letter arrived from my parents. It was an unexpected surprise, a sign that they had begun to reflect on everything that had transpired. Inside was a card for Mia, with a note that simply said, "Thinking of you. Love, Grandma and Grandpa Ward." It was the first gesture they had made since our confrontation. But it was more than that, a 4-page letter addressed to me, written with surprising vulnerability. "I don't know if you'll read this, and I wouldn't blame you if you didn't," it began. "What your father and I did was inexcusable. There are no adequate words to express our remorse, but I feel compelled to try. The photographs you showed us have haunted me every day since, not because they were shocking, though they were, but because they forced us to confront the reality we had been avoiding. While you were living through unimaginable pain, we were caught up in trivial matters and Jacob's endless needs. We failed you as parents. We failed Mia as grandparents. We have failed as human beings." My mother's words were raw, unfiltered. She continued, "We don't expect forgiveness, nor do we deserve it. But we want you to know that your words that night changed us. We are trying to become better people. People worthy of eventually being part of your and Mia's lives again, if you'll ever have us." The letter went on to describe how Jacob, too, had spent weeks reflecting on his actions. He had even broken off contact with my parents for a time, calling them out for their behavior. And now he was volunteering at a rehabilitation center similar to the one Mia attended, trying to understand what we had been through. "If you're willing," the letter concluded, "we would like to visit Mia on her upcoming birthday. No expectations, no demands, just to be present, to begin the long process of earning back a place in your lives." I folded the letter slowly. I didn't know how to feel. Part of me wanted to tear it up, to protect Mia and myself from further disappointment, but another part of me recognized the genuine remorse in my mother's words. People could change, couldn't they? I'd spent months teaching Mia about recovery, about setbacks not being permanent, about the possibility of growth. Wasn't that true for my parents too? After a few days of reflection, I called my mother. "Mia's birthday gathering will be small," I said. "Just a few friends from therapy, David's parent and Megan's family. If you want to come, you're welcome, but it needs to be about Mia, not about fixing our relationship." The silence on the other end of the phone felt endless. Then, my mother's voice, thick with emotion, broke the silence. "Thank you, Rachel," she said. "We'll be there. On Mia's terms. On your terms." Mia's 10th birthday arrived with perfect early autumn weather. The backyard was decorated with marine biology-themed decorations, reflecting Mia's new obsession. David's parents helped hang streamers and blow up balloons, their presence a comfort. But the moment my parents arrived, I could feel the tension in the air. They carried a gift, wrapped in dolphin and seahorse paper, clearly chosen with Mia in mind. Jacob arrived later, his discomfort palpable, but as I introduced him to Mia, her direct gaze met his. "Hi," she said simply. Her tone was as simple as the question she had asked months ago, "Why don't Grandma and Grandpa Ward ever visit?" The words hit my parents harder than I expected. My father kneeled in front of Mia, his eyes brimming with tears. "We should have been there," he said, his voice breaking. "We made a terrible mistake. I'm so sorry, Mia." Mia studied him for a moment, then nodded once. "Okay, do you want some cake? Mom made it with blue frosting inside, like the ocean." Just like that, Mia gave us all a path forward. Not forgiveness exactly, but a chance to rebuild. The birthday party went surprisingly well. My parents made a real effort to engage with Mia. asking about her therapy and listening to her explanations, even when they were slow or halting. Jacob, too, spoke privately with me, apologizing once again for his role in the settlement demand. "I've been doing a lot of thinking," he said, "about the kind of person I want to be, the kind of brother, the kind of uncle." "It's a process," I replied, neither accepting nor rejecting his apology. "We're all figuring it out, day by day." 2 weeks later, my parents asked if they could attend one of Mia's therapy sessions. They also suggested family therapy with a counselor specializing in family estrangement and reconciliation. We were slowly rebuilding what had been broken, and for the first time in a long time, I allowed myself to believe in the possibility of healing. On the first anniversary of David's death, Mia and I visited his grave. She walked with a walker, insisting on making the journey from the car to the grave on her own. We placed flowers on the headstone, and Mia pressed her hand against the engraved letters of her father's name. "I think Daddy would be proud of us," she said simply. "We got hurt, but we kept going." I nodded, blinking back tears. "He would be incredibly proud of you." "You're the bravest person I know," I said, my voice thick with emotion. "And you too, Mom," she insisted. "You take care of me, and you go to work, and you don't cry until you think I'm asleep." I smiled through my tears, touched by her perceptiveness. "We take care of each other, don't we?" As we slowly made our way back to the car, Mia asked, "Are we going to be okay?" I paused, giving her the honest answer she deserved. "We're going to be different than we were before. There will always be a David-shaped hole in our lives. But yes, we're going to be okay. We have each other. We have people who love us. We're building a new kind of family." As we sat on the porch swing that David had installed the summer before the accident, I realized that we had survived the worst that life could throw at us. Whatever came next, Mia and I would face it together, our small but mighty family of two.